couple minutes behind, but we'll get going now. Thank you guys all for coming. So this is a session on creativity, how to get out of a creative rut and find inspiration. Much of this is going to be writer-centric, but I'm sure your individual disciplines, whether it's art or music, it'll all sort of be relevant, but I mainly are going to be talking about writing. If that's not your jam, I will not be offended if you leave, but I do hope you stay, of course. If you were in my last presentation, I'm sorry, these two slides are the same, I apologize. So as of 4 years ago, I was not in games. I was an English teacher, and I was a novelist. I had 2 kids, and my husband was in AAA. He made a little game called BioShock, another one called BioShock Infinite, which were pretty cool, but I was not involved in games. And then Irrational closed, and it was 6 months after I had left my teaching job to be a stay-at-home mom, and so we decided to pivot. And Bill makes games, I write, and so we are now the Deep End Games. And Bill and I co-founded the Deep End Games together. I wrote Perception. It came out last year on Steam, pretty much all the systems, Xbox, PS4, and Switch. I now have 4 kids, oh my god, and that's why I became a meditation teacher and yoga teacher, because, oh my god, we were in crunch with a newborn, a toddler, 2 elementary schoolers, and both got mono, so like shit went down. But it's basically been a huge blessing because I've learned to really balance things in life, and this presentation, even though it's on inspiration, a lot of it draws back to that mindfulness. So I can't wait to talk about creativity because it's such a fun topic. Creativity does not need to be hard. So you have this idea of this tortured artist, this alcoholic writer, and it makes it seem like, oh, the creating, it's killing me. It doesn't have to be hard, and I really want, in this presentation, to be able to give you a way to find inspiration in all parts of your life, even the mundane things. Most importantly, build routines to keep track of your ideas. Delve into your passions. You are the best expert on you, and by examining the things that you love, you will find endless creative inspiration. We're even going to do a couple activities. It may be like the English teacher in me, but we are going to have like, okay, write a little bit, like maybe turn to somebody. I don't know. It could get a little high school around here. And also using the power of your subconscious mind. And that sounds a little hippy-dippy, but it's really cool and it's really effective. So we're going to have some fun with some plot bunnies. In case you don't know what a plot bunny is, it's a little pesky idea that when you're working on some project, it starts to hop around and starts to get your attention, and all of a sudden, you've diverted your work from your real project and you started cultivating plot bunnies. But plot bunnies are great if they have proper care and handling. So I think that everybody should have a plot bunny journal. An attractive notebook is nice for those of you who like the pen to paper. There are a lot of scientific studies that show that when you write something in your own handwriting, it's much more effective, you remember it better, you sort of capture more of its essence better. But for some people, a lot of people like Evernote for this. I actually use my Notes app, like the generic Notes app in my iPhone. And some people just like to have a Google Drive folder, but have one place where you dedicate and put your ideas. Those ideas could be high level, novel ideas, or they could just be a line that you just love, and you're like, I don't know what my next book is, but it's gonna have this line in there. My next game, this character is gonna say this, okay? Write everything down. That is, like, if you hear me say write 1,000 times today, it's not enough. I forget a lot of things unless I get into the routine of putting things down. And I know a lot of people, we all have very scattered lives sometimes. Make this something, if you are a writer, make it something you're uncompromising about. Be unreasonable about it. I write down everything. That's just what you do. That's who you are. You write everything down. And then, and this is where the subconscious stuff comes in, and I'm going to talk about it later, read it before bed. Read what you wrote today before bed. Flip back, see what you wrote a year ago. Just kind of like hop around and let your brain do the marinating and the percolating. And you can just enjoy some trippy dreams. Let's talk about dreams though, because dreams as a creative tool can be really, really interesting. So when I talk about meditation, I talk about what happens when you sleep. So when you're awake, your brain is in alpha waves, sometimes beta, but when you sleep, you go into your theta and delta waves. And what those do on a chemical level is that they clean the toxins out of your brain in your sleep. It's almost like you're getting sort of like defragged in your sleep. It's clearing away all the toxins of the day. So on a physical level, your brain's resetting, but on a subconscious level, you are working through your unresolved issues. That's why it's your subconscious. Okay? It's processing stuff from your day. It's going through all of the repressed stuff that's going on. And so your dreams are heavily symbolic. Now, you do not have to be an English teacher or have an English degree to be aces at symbolism. All you need is Google and a dream dictionary, right? So Joseph Campbell, who wrote about the monomyth and whatnot, he talks about how humanity has this collective unconscious of symbols that no matter what your culture, like they sort of all mean the same thing deep down. It's like a human thing. And so when you go through your dreams, I want you to jot down what was in your dream. And if something stands out to you as like interesting or unusual, 90% of the time when you look it up in a dream journal, you're like, oh shit, how did you know that? And you get really wigged out. It's awesome. So what were the cool elements in your dream? Every morning, like when you wake up, it should be second nature. Take a minute. Practice a little bit of gratitude, start feeling good about your day, and then you got to jot down your dreams because, like I said, it helps you process stuff personally and creatively. What stuck with you? Most importantly, how can I use this? I know a lot of people who have used interesting things that have happened in dreams, in their creative works, in their games. I know that I've absolutely done this. But I want you to go to bed. If you're stuck in a story idea, like if you can't progress in your game, or if you're really hung up on a mechanic, I want you to go to bed and have those ideas at the forefront of your mind. Really be like, I need to figure out this system. I need to figure out where this relationship goes. Dig in, let your brain do the rest. I'm serious, your subconscious mind can actually work through these problems when you're asleep. And it's pretty incredible. Next, we're going to talk about subconscious more when we talk about showering. Yes, we're going to have a slide about showering. We're going to have 2 slides about showering. Deal with it. But now I want you to think about your favorite genres, the favorite subgenres, the things that are just your jam, okay? So when I say that, I mean the niche of stories that you enjoy. And it could be several. Now for me, this is just an example so that you can get your brain jogging. Pandemics. If it's got a pandemic, I'm in. I'm so in. Take my money. I love any stories about reincarnation. I'm a huge fantasy reader, so that's like a big thing for me. I love it. Lost loves, unrequited loves, like far off through space and time. Love that. Helpless romantic, or hopeless romantic. And post-apocalyptic survival. All of these little yummy bits are my jam. What do I do with that? Typically, you just go through your day and be like, I like this, I don't like that. Like, these are my things. No, I want you to utilize this. I want you to ask yourself what appeals to you and why. Why do you like that? You've probably never thought about it. Like, oh, why do I like pandemics? It's a weird thing. Why would I like that? Take a minute. This is the English teacher. Take a minute. Jot down a few of the genres you like and start to just ask yourself these questions. Why do I like this? Are there common threads? Take a minute, I will give you a minute, and just really notice what comes up. It doesn't have to be super productive right now, but it might be eventually. So take a minute, see what comes up. I'm gonna time you. Got a minute. I'd love to hear a couple. What do people say? Just shout it out.
I'm really into fantasy that reflects something in reality rather than just being escapism.
Okay,
and I think
so grounded fantasy, sure.
Yeah, and I think that I find that the metaphors and symbolism useful there are actually a useful, practical thing in day-to-day life for contextualizing some of the things that are going on.
Oh, interesting. So it's almost like another way of looking at it. Can I get one or two more things that you jotted down? I'd love to hear it.
Supernatural, gothic fiction, and horror.
Also my jam. Now why?
I really enjoy the setting, but also the sense of the unknown.
Okay, this is like we're tapping into some stuff here.
I like the psychology behind like post-apocalyptic survivals and different groups that can be formed. Like in that
Watching humanity sort of like how they turn. Okay, I'll take over.
Jumping off of that, I like psychological games in just general because it makes you expand your thought and just have thought experiments that sort of expand your knowledge of how your understanding of the world is.
Love that. So even if you just jotted down a bunch of things that you like, it's stuff that you can use. It's stuff. This can be the start of your journal. So now, what are your interests? What are things that you do outside of work and family that just light you up? So for me, I actually played D1 hockey in college. I was a goalie. I know that's kind of unusual for a video game person to be like a huge hockey fanatic, but I was really into it. I was always into writing, and then I started doing it professionally. Crystals, I love crystals. I even keep them in my pockets. I'm obsessed with them. And nutrition, I became vegan recently. So these are all things that just interest me, but not professionally. But if it interests you, it's something about it lights you up inside. It makes you think, okay? So jot down your interests. I'm going to give you another minute. Oh, and meditation. Reflect on why you like the things you like. It's something you've probably never done. Like, why do I like watching football? Like go into that. Go there. You probably haven't. So 1 minute. Do it. All right, 10 more seconds. Just get a couple things down. All right, a couple of you. I would love to hear your interests and why. Pete?
Retro game collecting.
Okay, so what is it about retro games that just like gets you?
Simplicity.
Yeah.
Simplicity and accessibility.
I love that. Like if you think about like what it took to do this, how you can easily boil down some things that are complex. That can be endless creativity, like taking advanced stuff, boiling it down, taking boiled stuff down, making it advanced. That's endless. What else? What are some other things that you have, Jordan?
So I'm super into retro tech.
Ooh.
Like it's kind of down the same vein as like retro games. Like,
Yeah.
I love how things used to look. I used to look at like how to accomplish something. Like you look at a Commodore 64 and you're like, holy shit, that's wild. Like
Yeah.
just everything behind that just gets me really excited because everybody had a different idea for stuff and all led up to what we have now.
Right, and look at how like interested it got you. Like you can have those interests about you can channel that into other things. It's really not that complicated to take your passion for something random and turn it into a seedling of a project. One more, and then we're gonna move forward. Ryan?
I really enjoy learning more about food and cooking in general because I really enjoy just like being able to serve something to my friends and family and things like that. But also, kind of similarly, the stage of going from like, oh, I can like boil some good mac and cheese to now I can make fresh pasta from scratch and like get that advanced level of like, just constant tangible learning and progress.
That fulfills, so I'm a huge self-help junkie, that fulfills one of the 6 human needs, and that is growth. If you have nothing in your life where you feel like you're growing and accomplishing, you feel emotionally stunted. That's huge. I love that. And that's a completely different talk. Anyway, let's move on to another way that you can shake up what's already in your brain. So imagine the thoughts in your brain are like a snow globe, but you really don't know what, it just doesn't look like it fell right. Shake it up. See where things land this time around. It's a completely different place. So what I mean by that, in addition to writing games, I write books. I wrote my last book doing this and this alone. I made a playlist based on the rough ideas I had. I went to the gym. I worked out listening to those songs, and the plot kept coming. I would get literally like right off the bike, get on my laptop, write down what happened on the bike, and do it the next day. So by introducing music, which is a completely different element, it shook things up in the snow globe in a really, really interesting way. Similarly, if you don't have an idea, get songs that make you feel something. Think of all the songs that just like either punch you in the gut or get you amped or just make you feel something. Put them in a playlist, go for a run, go for a walk, and see what percolates, okay? It's that mixed media. When you're a creative person, light up the other creative parts of your brain. And that comes to the next one. If you're not an artist, create something. Get some paints. I don't care what you do. I don't care how it looks. It changes your brain chemistry when you change your neural pathways. Mix it up. Your creativity can come out in other ways. You'll get ideas you never thought of. Write a poem if you're not a poet. Write a song. See your brain engaging in different ways and watch what happens, what starts to light up. And write everything down. Write everything down. Did I tell you to write everything down? Okay, so collaboration. Tell me if this has happened to you. You're in a conversation with somebody and they say something and your brain goes off on a tangent and it goes to your project. They just said something that made you go, oh my God, and you're nodding and you're like, oh yeah, but in your mind you're mentally something's cooking. Engaging with other people can really, really shift your perspective in the direction that it needs to go. But we just need to be cognizant of the line between somebody catalyzing your ideas versus you taking somebody's ideas, because it's a totally, totally different thing. We are not going to turn to each other because we sort of already did that, and I want to stay on time. So flex your creative muscles every day. And some of this sounds a little weird, but just trust me. Make up stories about strangers. Okay, so I have a story about 15 years ago. My sister and I had this waitressing job, and it had this really long commute, and we were in traffic with all the businessmen who went to the area. And it was just the two of us, and my car had no radio. And we would start to make up stories about all the businessmen who would drive by us. And by the end of the ride, we had this wild story about this crazy office, and we had this just alternate lives for these people. And it was just a creative exercise. And there's this empathy exercise they talk about when you run into somebody who is rude to you or snaps at you or acting irrationally and you don't know them. Tell yourself, they must be going through something. They have an elderly parent at home that they're taking care of, or they lost a child. Something that makes you go, oh, their behavior is this way. That exercise can actually be really beneficial to remember that everybody has their own backstory, and that can really help you with your characters. Why do they act this way? Well, this happened to them in the past. So getting weird and creating people's lives, no, they're not going to know. Guess what? I decided what car you drive. I decided what college you went to. Nobody cares. Make up alternate endings to movies, TV, games, and write them down. And yes, I'm talking about fan fiction, people. It's okay. All right? I know a friend who made $80 million writing fan fiction. So anyway, with fan fiction, it's really nice because you have this pre-established universe. You have rules, you have characters, but then they can be your puppets and you can make them do whatever you want. It's a really great creative exercise in looking at options, looking at the way things could have happened. I'm looking at you, Lost. I'm still bitter about the way the show ended. Writing fan fiction, you have they're just a bunch of puppets in front of you, the characters, you know where they live, but what if one of them did this, or what if I shipped these two together? It's just a really great creative exercise, and a lot of the times, writing fan fiction can lead you to writing your own original fiction. I don't know if anybody ever reads Cassandra Clare, but her Mortal Instruments series was actually Harry Potter fanfic. There's a lot of books out there that used to be fanfic that people have translated and converted into original fiction. And it's a good stepping stone for some people, and it's a really easy way. And I just thought that picture was really funny. Look at the faces. Look at their faces. Yeah, and basically ask what if about every situation. Imagine alternate realities. Just Open your mind and ask questions and write it down when you're done. Showering. You guys, have you ever been like, wow, I get really good ideas in the shower? Have you ever thought about that? This happens to me on a very regular basis. There's science behind this. It's so awesome. So Alice Fletcher's a neuroscientist, and she talks about the dopamine that's released in the shower, and it's not the kind of dopamine that gets released when you play Fortnite or get alerts on your phones. All of the good, juicy, happy, relaxing chemicals come out in the shower, like serotonin, dopamine, and the shower is this incubation period. You're alone. You're in a warm, comfy, good-smelling situation. Things are percolating because you've technically got nothing to do other than a little bit of this, right? And it's distraction-free, unless you get bored and start reading the shampoo bottle, which happens. But her quote is, "The subconscious mind has been working extremely hard to solve the problems you face. And now that you let your mind wander, it can surface and plant those ideas into your conscious mind. Very similar to when you're asleep." Bring your journal into the bathroom if you don't think that you can keep those ideas in your head to the time you get to your bedroom or wherever you're going. Great quote from author Jonah Lehrer. When our minds are at ease, when those alpha waves that I talked about earlier are rippling through the brain, we're more likely to direct the spotlight of attention inward toward that stream of remote associations emanating from the right hemisphere. In contrast, when we are diligently focused, our attention tends to be directed outward toward the detail of the problems we're trying to solve. It's not until we're being massaged by warm water, unable to check our email, that we are finally able to hear the quiet voices in the back of our heads telling us about the insight. The answers have been there all along, we just weren't listening. We know the answers to the questions we have. We just have to find them in our brains. Brainstorm early, and some of you might not like this, but there's a lot of science behind it. It's when your prefrontal cortex is most active. So when you look at the way your brain in a human has developed, your prefrontal cortex is the newest part of your brain. It's the most human. You've got your monkey mind, your lizard brain that are the instincts, sleep, eat, other things. But your prefrontal cortex, that's where we're human, that's where we dream, that's where we create. And in the morning, that's when it's the most active. You also have, I'm sorry to say this, finite willpower. Scientists have done extensive researching that by the end of the day, we're juiced. We're kind of tapped. Some people have more of it than others, but finite, willpower is an actual resource. And we can't just power through it without consequences. Also, in the morning, things that have marinated in your brain as you've slept are fresher. You have the most energy of your day. But these scientists also said that people can be categorized as larks or owls. So for some people that are owls and you stay up later, you have the ability to work a little bit better in your sleep. But the most important thing is develop a routine so that no matter what, you can capture some of that morning stuff if you're really not a morning person. TLDR, I want you to notice things. I want you to reflect on those things. I want you to write those things. And just repeat it the rest of your life. And you'll be endlessly creative. You'll always have something. So, this is me. That's actually cutting our wedding cake. I cut it with a sword. And I'm not ashamed at all. So anyway, I love to stay in touch. Those of you who know me. So you can email me. You can add me on Twitter. deependgames.com. I wrote Perception. It's pretty great. Check it out. I have another project. Can't talk about it yet, though. So we have 2 minutes. Do you guys have any questions? I know it's kind of, I talk a little fast and I get really excited, but Pete?
Do you have, it's a hard question to ask,
Sure.
but do you have any recommendations or ideas regarding how to deal with burnout?
Burnout, I would have a side project that you dedicate a small amount of time to and let your brain relax and do the things that it loves. And that's why I sort of walked you through the exercises where these are the things that you're naturally drawn to. Have a side project, even if it goes nowhere, that you're naturally drawn to, gravitating you, and it will recharge you. I promise you that. I think everybody has to have that little side nugget. What else? Yes?
You said your brain is most active when you wake up. Is that relative to when you wake up? Or is it you have to wake up in the morning?
Good question. Good question. I think it's when you actually physically wake up. So it takes 2 hours to fully wake up, and your brain slowly surfaces. So when you go to sleep, you have 90 to 120 minute cycles, and then you take 2 hours to surface. And if you hit the snooze button, your brain resets to a 90-minute cycle, and that's why when people hit snooze, they wake up groggy. So I would say let yourself wake naturally and then go for it. I don't think the time of day matters, like from a scientific perspective. Anything else?